Peace and blessings. So, my name is Carlos Walker, and this is Art and Hustle, Black Authors Matter Season 2. And today I have with me Mr. Maurice King Cobra Jackson. How you doing?
Blessings, I'm doing well. How about yourself, my brother?
Man, loving life out here, man. Look, hey. So, if you will, before we start, share a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Man, my name is Maurice King Cobra Jackson. I'm a truck driver at the moment. I'm a published author as well, and pretty much I'm an entrepreneur. That's me. That's me in a nutshell, right? Always hustling, always trying to get to the next phase in life, not the next dollar, next phase in life, right? Because it's not always about money with me.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. So, being an author, I would like to ask you a few questions. What made you decide to start writing?
Prison, prison.
Mm,
Prison, that wasn't being in prison, that was my outlet to pass my time and to keep me free mentally, right? Because I was locked up physically, but mentally my mind was free. You know what I mean? And I had got a long sentence, and I wanted to make sure that was going to be my last sentence. So in order to do that, I had to elevate myself mentally, and to keep my mind sharp, I had to feed myself stuff in order to change, in order to progress. You know what I mean? Because I kept going back to prison, in and out, and I wanted to break that cycle of recidivism. So I started
so,
writing, and that was my outlet.
okay. Is that where I know that's where you started writing. Is that where you wrote your first book?
Yes, that's where I wrote my first book. Um, but as far as me writing, I've always been a writer. I wrote poems growing up because I used to write music, getting into music scene, tapping into all that. So writing was always a passion, always an outlet for me. But as far as taking it further and just telling my whole story, yeah, it was prison that set me down and gave me the time to actually write and
Mm,
start building a blueprint in order to build a path and bring build a path for success and gave me a vehicle to use to get to that goal. You know what I mean?
okay. So let's talk about your journey since you have been home and published your books. Because me and you actually met through what was his name? Ash
Ash
Cash.
Cash. Ash
Yeah.
Cash, yeah.
Shout out to Ash Cash.
Shout out to Ash, man. Big bro Ash, man. I love that guy, man. Always
Most
giving people the game and want to see people succeed. Yeah, I love that guy, man. He dropped a lot of jewels. You was there when I was asking the questions. I was hungry. I came out hungry. I had these books. I wrote 4 books while I was in prison. I had these books, but I didn't have no outlet to or platform to get to be heard on. And I was just searching for information, and I had seen Ash Cass in the vault, and he was doing a commercial, and I signed up like that, and he hit me. I signed up as luck would have. I met you, and you know the rest has been history. The rest has been history. Like I didn't write books to sell books. That was never my intention to sell books. I just wrote the book, and I wanted to be published just to say, I did that. You know what I mean? I put my book out there. I didn't just write it for nothing. I put it out there. But as fate would have it, I was able to sell almost 8,000 books up to date from November, from the November, I think, 9th, when my maybe a little bit more before November, for my first book published to now. I was able to sell close to 8,000 books. I think it's like 7,752 books, something like that, up to date. But
Congratulations.
yeah,
Congratulations. And this done
yeah,
in less than a year.
less than a year. Yeah, less than a year. Uh, I got a big fan base following. As far as like TikTok, using Facebook, using my fan base following, and people that actually know me that just want to hear my story. But my biggest sellers are the guys in prison that were actually locked up with me. yeah, a lot of people in prison want to know, like, man, how are you being able to stay out there? Because I still go back into prisons and doing ministry work when I'm able to. So uh they want to know, like, how are you staying out? How are you changing it? And when I go up there and speak to them, it's like, man, you're giving us hope. Like, man, I want to get where you're at and surpass that. And I just give them the game as much as I can, and I drop a little jewel like, hey, I got my books on Amazon. You know what I mean? And one of my books is running a play on how to stay out of prison. It's for I call it for the black sheep. It's street motivation, the King's Blood Raw Jewels, where I'm giving all my jewels on how I'm staying out of prison and what vehicles I'm using to get to where I want to go.
Okay. Matter of fact,
hmm
being that we already there,
hmm
name the titles of your books, but share them as you go.
So first and foremost, the first book I put out there was Street Motivation, the King's Blood Raw Jewels. I wrote that while in prison because this was the first book that I actually wrote because I wanted uh, to put all my struggles, all my knowledge into a book. And originally it was for my kids. I wanted to leave this behind so they would know a better way instead of going to the streets, a better way on how to get what they wanted without having to touch the streets. You know what I mean? And I wanted to make a guide for them so they wouldn't go down the wrong path. But while I was locked up, I was also like teaching people how to pass their GED, teaching people how to read. I would write letters for people, you know what I mean, that couldn't spell, and I got tired of writing for them, so I was like, let me teach you how to read, so you can write your own letters. Okay, now you know how to read. Let me teach you about math. You know what I mean? What I'm good at. So you know what I mean? You can go get in this GED class and you can pass the reading and the math, and all you got to do is pass like three more subjects, and then you got your GED. So that's gonna better you. So when I started doing that, I had a youngster that needed guidance. He was like 19 years old, with a capital life sentence, man. And in Texas, a capital life, you got to do at least 40 before you even come up for parole. And he was like, "Man, you got a lot of jewels," but he was a live wire, and I was sitting them down to like calm him down, to keep him out of fights, to keep him out of going lock up. You know what I mean? Which is jail inside of jail. And I gave him my jewels, and he started reading. And when he started reading my jewels, he forced me to start writing the rest of the book because I only had like a
Mm.
couple chapters done, and he would read it, and he was like, "Yo, Cobra, where the rest of the book at?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Man, I'm done with all these pages, these chapters. Where the rest of it at? I need the rest of these jewels. I need the rest of these jewels before you leave. You fit to go. I'm gonna be here. I need the rest of these jewels." You know what I mean? And that was forcing me to write it and write it and write it and write it. And by the end of the time, I'm like, "Man, that's the end of the book. I'm done here." You know what I mean? And when I got out, I actually sent them a copy. I sent them two copies of that book just on GP because he was my motivation into completing something and getting it done, man. So I just want always try to play it forward, man. Try
Shout
to
out
play
to
it forward. Yeah.
if he hadn't been in your life, you wouldn't have already had a test subject to know that the jewels are actually applicable because it motivated him to, hey, give me the rest of them before you leave. But he pushed you
hmm
to actually finish the book. And not saying
Yeah.
that you wouldn't have finished it, but it's him who actually added fire and said, yo, I need these. So
You
shout out to him, man.
you know
And your next book. Oh, go
so
ahead.
no, the next book was Motivational Jewels, The Art of Surrender. Because while I was in prison, man, I went through a real dark time in 2014. Matter of fact, my mom passed away in 2010 while I was locked up. I got out. I was out, I promised, for like 4 months and went back. And when I went back, I got a 10-year sentence for something I really didn't do. But it was a blessing in disguise, as I call it, because I was wilding, you know what I mean? When my mom passed away, my will to just live, I lost my will to live. And it never really sinked in. Like when my mom passed, I I tell people like she came to me that night, you know what I mean, and I knew like her passing. It's in my book how I break it down. But my mom, and my grandma came to me, and I knew my mom was about to die. And when she left, that was at the time that I recorded from the dream, and looking at the clock was actually the actual time that my mom actually passed away.
Mm.
So yeah, so just talking about it makes me emotional. I kind of want to tear up, but
Man, that's okay.
yeah,
Look,
so
that's what life is about. You're supposed to understand that. Matter of
uh,
fact, I'm gonna stop now and ask you a question. Tell me something great about her that will always inspire you and that you will never forget.
man, as far as my mom was a drug addict. She was a hustler. But one thing she always made known that nobody was gonna mess with her baby. I was her baby. I was the last child, and I was the only boy. Uh, but one thing about my mama is, unlike other people, I come up for poverty. So my mama taught me how to hustle and how to survive any situation where other people moms like, get ready for school, get ready for this, get ready for math. No, my mom was, get ready, go get the Pyrex ready, go get this ready, go, this how you much water you gotta put, this is the baking soda you gotta use, go get the fork, bend it up like this, hit it like, you know what I mean? That's what my mom was preparing me. This is how you make money. This is what you do. This is how you flip. This is how you move in the streets. This is how you set up things, so make sure they don't run down on you, how to set up your protection. So my mom was teaching me how to function and how to be successful in the streets. My grandma's teaching at a young age, because I was dyslexic, and I had mental issues, dealing with mental issues as a youngster. One of the things my grandma was teaching me when she taught me how to read was always dominate. No matter what you do, what field you get into, make sure you're the best at it, so nobody could ever take your place or replace you. And that always stuck with me, with my mom's teaching and what my grandma taught me. Hey, it made me it made me a force. It made me the survivor that I am. Without those teachings, without what my mom gave me, uh I probably wouldn't even be here now. You know what I mean? Because I'm here today because I was successful at selling drugs. I was successful in the street. I learned how to dominate. Even though I went to prison and did over 20 years of my life in prison, you know, I was able to survive because of that hustling mentality. Like, I was locked up. They wasn't sending me money. They wasn't sending me stuff. When my mom died, I was on my own. I was making wine behind the toilet in prison and surviving that way. So, with the hustler spirit that I have and the mentality that I have, I can survive anything. I can survive anywhere, any city. It doesn't matter where you put me. You can put me in Fallujah and I'm gonna survive it, because that's what they installed in me, how to become a chameleon and survive and adapt to any situation. So
And
that's
right
one
now,
thing I'll never
you
forget that my mom gave me.
and right now you're taking and using those same skills but differently. Not in
Yeah,
drugs, but with your book.
yeah.
You
So
oh go ahead.
so not with drugs. I'm taking these same principles, but I'm not using the same vehicles. I found alternate vehicles to get me to where I want to go. That's not going to put me in the place I don't want to be. You know what I mean? So it's being that chameleon and adapting to your environment. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm telling people in Street Motivation, the King's Blood Raw Jewels, how to adapt. I'm giving you the keys in Motivational Jewels, the art of surrender, that without God, without God first, it's hard to get to where you want to be. It's hard to persevere, because you're gonna need prayer. You know what I mean? You're gonna need meditation when everything seems chaotic and out of whack. You need to be still and listen to that small, still voice as it speaks to you. But if you're not still enough, you'll miss what he's saying. So if you're not praying, you're not having a relationship with God, and you're not strengthening your walk, and it's going to get harder and harder. You need a friend to carry you, you know what I mean? To leave their footprints in the sand and carry you when you can't walk no longer and you're out of energy, to get you to where you want to be, to make sure you cross that finish line. It goes deep, you know what I mean? It goes real deep. Yeah.
I need y'all to go get that book because look, from what he man, look, hey, I see why the pastor actually why he actually took the time to make sure that he poured and invested in you. Because guess what?
Yes.
These can actually help somebody else. And
And
normally it's the information that you read in a book that can help
hmm
you and help anybody. To me, I look at them as the cheat codes to life.
hmm
If somebody pick up your book and read your cheat code, they now done messed around and they ain't got to go through the perseverance or go through the struggle or some of the things that you went through because you done already went through it and put it in a book for them to take and run with it. So give me your third book.
so my third book that I wrote, I slowed it down and I came out with a children's book.
Okay.
And I slowed it down and I came out with the Suni Aruga story, the tiny little egg, the beginning of an adventure. And the reason why I took that route is because again, we lose sight as we get older. We forget about the little ones. You know what I mean? Like when I talk to my grandson, he's been a blessing to me. Everybody thought he was going to be artistic, but he just developed late in the game. And being able to just sit with him and I would just tell him stories and he would be like, Papa, Papa, Suni Aruga, a character I made up, you know what I mean? But telling the tales of life and trying to get to him. So he liked the story so much that when he come over and him and Emery would come over and I'll have them and I'll tell them the story, they would just be eating it up and they're engaging with me and they're like, is that it? What's the next? What's come on more, more, more? So I went on ahead and wrote that because again, you got to capture the mind at a young age while it's still developing, you know. And once you capture it and you install these different values and these different beliefs that they can prosper, they can be something. Just because you're small doesn't mean that you can't have a big impact on life. And those are so I slowed it down and I wrote that book. And really that was one of my number one selling books. Uh, after Street Motivation and the autobiography, and those the only reason why those two books are ahead of this one is because the pastor bought 2,000 books, as I told you, and then came back and bought because of the response that he was getting for them books, bought another 1,500 books. And once he bought those 1,500 books, I went and purchased 2,000 books on my own, and I just started passing them out to like juveniles, TYC, just giving them out for free to young black and brown kids in the inner city. You know what I mean? That looks just like me, that needs guidance, or I see somebody doing good in school, and they're playing basketball, but yet they're struggling to get shoes and they want to go hustle, but I'm trying to tell them, no, stay right here, read this, and put that fire under them and keep them on the right path. So, you know, it's about giving back too. You know what I mean? So
That's
I
what
wrote that book because I want the young people to keep imagining, right? When we get older, we stop using our imagination, man. And that's what's wrong with our youth now. They can't solve a lot of problems because they stop using their imagination. They can't see themselves on the other side of the problem and dissect the problem from the back end. And when you look at it from the back end, the problem ain't as big, but when it's up in your face, it's larger than life. But if you
I'm
can just reverse the view and the vantage point and look at it from the back, it's not as big, and you can dissect the problem and figure it out and come up with a solution. You know what I mean? And that's what I want people to remember. Like, don't stop
mm,
using your imagination. Just because you're small, you can't have don't doesn't mean you can't have a big impact. God can use anybody. He can write straight with crooked lines, man. You
come
know,
on
man.
now.
He's a great alchemist. He can take a penny and turn it into gold like that, man. God is amazing.
I
And
promise you.
he didn't took me you know what I mean, a sinner, a foremost sinner, like the apostle Paul said, and made him a righteous man of God, you know what I mean, a follower and a believer, a hardcore gangster, you know what I mean, it made me a believer and took me and trimmed me around the edges and made me right and whole. Yeah.
Mm. In your
So
fourth book.
that's what that's one. And so and the fourth book is like the grand finale. That's my autobiography from an addict baby to a king, and the title says it all. Like one thing Ash told me was create a title that's going to catch them and tell them about the book, and that's another thing from having a 30-minute conversation with Marvin Goldman. He was like, man, just make sure that you can capture their attention, and once you capture their attention and you got them wanting to read, make sure you put something that's going to keep a story that's going to keep them engaged. You know what I mean? Because Goldman was just too expensive for me, but the insight that he gave me from that 30-minute conversation was a blessing as well. Just that he took the time to even talk to me and give me the game was a blessing in its own right. I'm great. Like, I'm grateful for him, grateful for Ash. I'm grateful for a lot of people that I'm even grateful for you. You've been walking with the walking through this with me, you know what I mean, since we met, you know what I mean, and we've just been gravitating towards each other, and it's been a blessing to have like a kind of like my battle buddy, right? As they say in the army or Navy, have that battle buddy to just keep you accountable and like just let you know, hey, it gets greener on this side, man. Just stay the course. You know what I mean? So yeah, I've been blessed to have people be in my circle to help me grow. And yeah, so that book right there, uh, it even in the detail that it was, I even told the pastor like, hey, this book, I wasn't a Christian when I wrote it. It's raw, it's uncut, and I'm telling my story the way it is. So it might not be suitable for the church, but this is my story. And he said, listen, everybody has a testimony, and that's what makes it a testimony. Your story is unlike any other, and it's a story that needs to be heard. And he bought 1,500 books, and I'm I'm grateful. You know what I mean? I'm grateful for that. But
Look, I
yeah,
understand. Look,
yeah,
so
yeah, man.
uh, if you could do anything, there's a few things I
Hmm.
want you to do. Number one, if you could tell anybody, somebody who is just starting off, whether they're fresh author, they're working in whatever gift they may have, whether it be art, whatever case, give me a word of wisdom that you would give them, because I need something that's going to inspire them to move forward in their next. Give me that.
First, first of all, I'm not going to use no explicit language, but I'm gonna give them my motto without using explicit. First of all, you got to understand this: nobody owes you anything, but you owe yourself everything, right?
Mm,
So just keep that in mind. Nobody owes you anything, but you owe yourself everything. So when they tell you no, that doesn't mean you give up on your journey. They don't owe it to you to give you a yes. If you want a yes, you owe it to yourself to go get that yes. And that's the first and major jewel that I drop on them like that, because that's my motto. That's what got me, you know what I mean, and into the mold and into the mind frame that I am. Nobody owes me nothing, but I owe myself everything. If I don't want to go back to prison, I got to keep myself out of prison. I got to make the decision that's going to keep me out of prison. That I got to do the things and make the sacrifices that most people ain't gonna make, but they ain't been in them walls, so they take a hamburger for granted. But I went 10 years without a hamburger, a real hamburger, or chicken salad, so I don't take mine for granted. And when I eat my full plate because I ain't throwing nothing away. You know what I mean? Because there were days when I was going hungry and all I had was a ramen noodle soup and nothing else to go with it. And hey, I had to make that work. And still going to sleep with your stomach touching your back is not a good thing. So that's one of them. Nobody owes you nothing. You owe yourself everything. So when they tell you no, you just go to the next one and on to the next one until you get your yes. You gotta make them tell you. You gotta work for your yes. You know what I mean? You want a yes, you gotta work for it. And then the last thing is you can do it. You know what I mean? Don't let nobody say that you can't do it. It's possible. You can do it. You know what I mean? I found out a way on I couldn't get no publisher. I didn't have the money that they was asking for at first. And then, I did get a publisher and they tried to screw me in the end. So Cash gave me the game and I took what he told me and I pieced it together piece by piece, and I made it work. And I got 4 books that's on Amazon that's selling. Most of my books that I sell is out the trunk, you know what I mean? Uh Beating the pavement, putting in work, you know, but majority of my books, I ain't gonna even lie, I give them away. You know what I mean? Because it was never, like I said, it was never my intention to make money off of it. I just wanted to do it to say that I did. And now that I generated some funds and capital off of it, I still give back, man. I turn around and I practice the principle that's in street motivation. I turn back and I try to pull somebody out the bucket one by one. You know what I mean? Like that man on Hacksaw Ridge, like that movie was very powerful, and people don't even know. He was just one more and just one more, and the man saved like 67 people. You know what I mean? That would have died, but just one more. I just want to get one more out the streets. I just want to get one more out the penitentiary. There's 4 people I write that all got life sentence that I still write to this day. Um, One of them being my best friend. You know what I mean? Little Donnie Devil Rule. My boy from my neighborhood that got a life sentence for gunning somebody down, and we connected after like 23 years. He's been gone 27. I was able to do my last 3 years with him, and I keep in touch with him. So
Salute, man.
I just want to get just one more, man, just one more. Hopefully, with this, we can pull one more or 2 more out. You know what I mean? And
That's
that's
I.
just the goal, man.
And the last thing I'm gonna actually do, let the people know where
Hmm.
they can actually purchase your books. I want y'all to go get every one of his books if you will, because guess what? As he just said, just one more. If you
Just
mess
one more.
and purchase this book and you are able to give it to a young person, if you are able to use the jewels yourself, inspire somebody else to go purchase the book. So and then guess what? Just one more. So where can they
So
get your
man,
book?
you can get at me at Barnes and Noble so far. Amazon is the main 2 places that I got. I'm looking to expand on Ingram Spark and other places. But with my job is being so demanding as it is, it's like I don't have the time to do it all by myself. So it's getting to the point where I got to put a team around me to take care of that, whether it's a family member, somebody getting out. I also got other things like I teach dudes that's just getting out of prison how to drive trucks, how to go sign up and get a free CDL, how to do the workforce solution thing, use human resources, all these other things. I teach them how to drive myself. So I'm trying to save them that way. So there's a lot of stuff that I do, man. I don't just so I there's not a moment in my day that's not used up doing something constructive for trying to build or give back and then still work a 9 to 5 where I just came home from a 5 day thing and I'm out here for 40 days. I'm in this trailer right now, so it's a blessing in itself too because you know, hey, it takes dough to make bread, right? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In order to grow something, you gotta fund it. You know what I mean? There's not always angels investors, so you gotta take your hard-earned money and put it into your project and what you believe. And I tell people, man, that's the best way to go because if the more you spend money, the less you'll mess up. You know what I mean? Especially when it's hard, you can't mess up. There's no room for error, so you got to make sure everything is strategic and mapped out properly. You know what I mean? Set up right so you can turn that 150K that you're going to invest in your business to 300. You know what I mean? Yeah,
And you said
yes, sir.
You said
Amazon
Amazon.
and Barnes and Noble so far. Yeah,
Is it a way that they can reach out to you personally and get a signed copy?
yeah. You can reach out to me personally. Y'all can reach out to me at the real King Cobra at gmail.com. DAREALKINGKOBRA at gmail.com. Uh, you can also hit me at my personal cell, the direct line 210-910-8592. And yeah, get at me if you're inspired by what you hear or you just need a word of encouragement, or man, you going through a hard time and need prayer, man. That's my
There we
direct line. I answer. I'm usually up, man, 20 hours out of the day trucking. So you might catch me in the truck. I can pull over and pray for you or whatever it is. It just might need some guidance, whatever it is, man. Hit me and yeah, we'll go from
that's
there.
it. So once again, I want to thank you for joining me, for even coming up here and allowing me to do this. It's an honor, man.
Hmm.
And keep doing what you're doing. Keep inspiring people. Keep writing. And for y'all who are watching, once again, go buy his books. So
Hold on, y'all. Before you even sign out, man, y'all go get my brother's books, man, for real. Cause y'all think this is just an interview, but we're doing this like from our heart, man. This is two brothers that's been locked up that did over 10 years, you know what I mean, in prison or in federal custody, man. That's really trying to bring positive change to the community and into our neighborhoods where we stay respectively. So, man, support this man. He's always speaking about black owned. I'm a scream black and Puerto Rican on stuff. Y'all need to go get it and look out for it because that's what I am. I'm a black Latino, but at the same time, man, it's all about saving one more person, pulling them out the fire, you know what I mean, and putting them in a place where they can be. One thing I would say, if you buy any book from me, man, I believe that Street Motivation, the King's Blood Raw Jewels, is for all the black sheep. There's always somebody that's a knucklehead or a mess up. You get that book and you put it under them because there's worksheets in there. You want to be a boss. You got to work for it. This is how you grind for it. You know what I mean? And nothing's gonna be given to you, but you got to go earn it. You got to go get what you want. Patrick Mahomes thought he was going to three-peat. He didn't three-peat. Why? Why? He didn't put in the work that to get there. The Eagles were more hungry and they got the Super Bowl and it hurt my heart. But hey, you know what I mean? You gotta work for it. You know what I mean? I'm just being honest. Like, yeah. So that's what I leave y'all. God bless every one of y'all that's looking at this. But yeah, go get my boy Carlos book too, man. He's doing something major and people kind of overlook what he's speaking about and what he's revealing to you, but his wisdom and knowledge in every page of his book.
appreciate that, bro. Appreciate that.
Oh yes,
So
sir. No doubt, no doubt.
my name is Carlos Walker. This is Art and Hustle, Black Authors Matter, and this is Maurice King Cobra Jackson. Blessings.
Salute, blessings. Love you, bro.
Love you, bro.